Hello, hello. Good afternoon. Good Sunday afternoon. Hope the weekend has been going great. I am CounterTop Commander, and I play Commander games at specifically about twice a week. Usually do a stream on Sunday and then a stream on Wednesday or Thursday, depending upon my schedule and how I'm feeling. On Sundays, we do a kind of very, very casual stream, almost a teaching stream, if you will. And then Wednesday or Thursday, we kind of do this sort of Wild West type thing. I just play whatever I want. Normally, they're complicated decks, and it takes a lot to go through. But with these, what we have in front of us are 4 different decks that are 4 out of 10 that I've designed specifically to help bring new players into the game of Magic, as well as allow people to be able to play without needing to know too much. You still need to know the basic rules of Magic, and that's what we're going to go through today. So if you're here and you are wanting to know more about Magic, wanting to know more about how to play, we are going to be playing a specific format called Commander, which is why my name, CounterTop Commander. And it has a little more additional rules to it, but Commander is meant to be, or was originally designed to be, more of a casual format. It's sort of kind of beer and pretzel type thing where you just kind of hang out with friends and do silly things and stuff like that. It has grown a little bit more past that, but that was sort of the original intent, and that's what I've tried to capture here with the cards before us today. Specifically, we have each of these decks are what's known as monocolored, so there are 5 different colors of Magic. Each of these decks only use one of those colors. These are also tribal decks, known as tribal decks, in the sense that they focus on one particular creature type, and they try to draw out the strengths of those creatures by grouping more of them together. So we have zombies, demons, goblins, and Thopters, which is like little mechanical flying things. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the game and see where we're at here. So when you start off a game of Magic, specifically Commander, you will have exactly 100 cards, the 100th of which is known as your Commander, and that's kind of what you're trying to build around. So with this one, let's go ahead and take a look at Ghoul-Caller Gissa, who is the commander of the zombie deck. She has, and let's go ahead, let's do something here to help out. We're going to bring her up on screen so that you can take a look if you are unfamiliar with this commander. So there we go. So if we're looking at this card, there's a lot of information here, but it's laid out in a way that's meant to be understandable. Easily grokked is how they say. So looking at this card, you see the top left here is Ghoul-Caller Gissa. That is the name of the card. Then kind of following across the card, you have what's known as the mana cost. That is the amount of what you have to pay to be able to have her out, or to have this card out and have it do its thing. In this case, it's a creature, and we see that. So if we go below the picture, the card art, we have the card type line. So legendary creature, human wizard. So she is a wizard, but she helms our zombie deck. And that's because of the box right below that is the rules text box that tells you kind of what the card does. In this case, you pay a mana and you tap her, sacrifice another creature, and you put X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is a sacrificed creature. So if we say sacrificed a creature with only 2 power, then we would get 2 zombies out of it. That's essentially as simple as it gets. So that also means that we can take a zombie that we already have, a 2/2 zombie, and we can chop it into half and make 2 more zombies from it, which is really silly, but that's kind of how it goes. And then at the very bottom, the last thing that we have on the bottom right is the power and toughness. So because this is a creature, it has a power and toughness rating. The first number is the power. That is the amount of damage a creature can deal in a turn. So if we attacked with Ghoul-Caller Gissa, or say we defended using Ghoul-Caller Gissa, she will deal 3 damage during that exchange. She also has, the second number is the toughness, so she can take 4 damage each turn. It's less of a health and more endurance, the amount each turn that she can take. So as long as she doesn't take 4 damage in a single turn, she survives to the next turn and gets back full 4 toughness for the next turn. Now let's go back up to the top, the mana cost. We brushed over that a little too quickly here. So you can see that there is a 3 and then 2 of the skull symbols. So those skull symbols are representing the color, the black color of magic, or swamps, if you will. That's also another way to kind of specify, because swamps are a card type that allows us to create mana that we use to pay for these cards. So the first number, the 3, can be paid with any color of mana. The next 2 have to be paid with black. So it is 5 mana total. 2 of them are the first and second there. The 2 black symbols have to be paid with black. We don't have to worry about that too much. You can have any combination of colors that you want to in a deck. You can have white. So there's black, white, red, blue, and green as the colors of magic. And each color is really good at doing different things. They have strengths and weaknesses. In the case of black is more about sort of consolidation of power under itself. It's meant to be like selfishness and greed is kind of what it represents in a lot of ways. And I mean, necromancing, defying life is kind of power and greed, I guess you could say. So power being the other part of the black color of mana. Just in Magic the Gathering. So if we take a look at that, or we've taken a look at that, so now let's go ahead and get into the actual playing of Magic, and I'm going to go and take this down. So we have our deck, we have our commander, we're going to set her to the side here. So after you shuffle your deck, when you start the game, you draw 7 cards, so we've already done that. And we can immediately tell there are different cards here. We have 4 different lands. Many of them are special lands. They just say land on them, but then we also have this swamp here on the side. This is known as a basic land. This is the land that will tap for a black mana. We also have this barren moor here. So it has an additional special ability, which means that if we want to use it for mana, then we're a little punished for using it, but we'll get to that here in a little bit. And then we have these other 2 special lands, and it's probably best if we just hang on to... We just know that we have 4 lands here, and then we have 3 other cards. 2 of which are creatures. One is a zombie that eats your own creatures to get stronger for a turn. And then we also have Corpse Harvester, which allows us to get rid of creatures that we have in exchange for finding swamps and finding zombies out of our library being our deck here. The final card that we have is Door of Destinies, which isn't a creature, it is an artifact, and it helps make all of our zombies stronger. The more zombies we play, the stronger they all get. So that's our hand here. This is a decent hand to start off with. It's not very quick, but we're sacrificing quickness for starting out with 4 lands to be able to do stuff with. We will draw more lands. It's not that we won't. It's just that we will be going a little slow, and so starting out with a good grip of lands in our hand is going to help us out in the long run, so that we're not trying to find lands, especially because our Ghoul-Caller Gissa is a 5-cost card, so we need 5 lands to be able to do that. So we won't be doing anything until our 3rd turn, in which we will have this Phyrexian Ghoul, is this creature's name. We'll be able to play that if we want to, or we can wait a turn and play Door of Destinies, with 4 mana and then play Phyrexian Ghoul. So it's just going to be, we're going to have to wait and see how it turns out, what the other cards that we draw for our turn. So speaking of taking your turn is divided up into a number of different phases. So when we start out, we will have an untap phase. We won't get too deep into that right now just because we don't have anything to untap. The meaning behind untapping, or the symbolism behind tapping something and untapping something, is whether or not it has energy to do something. So if you tap something, that's representing to all of the other players that that particular thing has exhausted its energy until your next turn, when you untap it and it regains its energy. So after the untap phase, then there is the upkeep phase. That's sort of, nothing can really happen during the untap. Things that we want to have happen at the beginning of the turn, that occurs during the upkeep before anything else can be done. And then after the after the upkeep, then we have a draw phase. So after we do those twos, so we don't really have anything to untap. We don't have anything during our upkeep, so we will go ahead and draw a card for the turn. And the card we drew, it's kind of messy, but it's because it's been altered a little bit. It is a card known as Animate Dead, which is a card that will, we are a necromancer, Animate Dead brings things back from the graveyard. So this will be handy later on in the game when we lose something important and we want it back. So we don't really have anything else after, not anything else. We don't have anything else for the draw phase, so we go into the next phase, which is known as the main phase 1, is the first of 2 that we get each turn. So during our main phase, this is when we can start playing spells that aren't at instant speed. This is when we can play a land. So let's go ahead and play a land. And then in this case, we are going to put Baron Moor into play tapped. And we're doing this now because we don't have anything else for our turn. And we're not going to have anything else until later on. So it's okay to go ahead and put this into play tapped. And it comes into play tapped already because it says on the card to do that. So we will put that into play tapped, and we will end our turn. So after the main phase, normally there is a combat phase, and then if you go into combat, then you will get a second main phase. But we don't have anything to attack with, so we're just going to go ahead and end the turn. Now, if you did go into combat, you could choose to go into main phase 2, and then if you did that, if you chose to do that, or if you chose not to during your combat, after those would be the end of your turn anyway. So let's go ahead and pass to our next deck here. So our next deck is a tribal demons deck. So of course, being demons, it is another black colored deck, and we are helmed by this guy called Vilis, Broker of Blood. Let's go and put him on the screen as well. We'll do this for each of the commanders. So here we go, Vilis, Broker of Blood. So he is a 8 cost card, so he costs a lot more than the other one did, the Ghoul Caller Gissa. 5 colorless, 5 mana that can be paid by any color, and then 3 black mana to be able to cast it. It's a legendary creature that's a demon, so great. We have a demon heading up our demon deck. Then it has flying. So flying is a combat ability. It will allow us to attack and not be able to be blocked unless the opposing creature has blocking. So then after that, we have 2 other cool abilities. They're sort of entwined. So it's pay a black, lose 2 life, or pay 2 life, and then target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So if there's a weak creature out on the board, as long as we have this guy out, we can pay a little bit of mana, a little bit of life, and get rid of that creature by giving it -1/-1. So it basically, a creature will die if its toughness is reduced to 0, and you can do that through combat, or you can do it through other things like this ability. But in addition to that, we have another ability. Whenever you lose life, draw that many cards. So when we activate that ability, we pay 2 life, so we will draw extra cards because we activated that ability. So this creature is going to be very, very strong. And that's why it costs so much. Is because, well, it not only has these really strong abilities, but it also is an 8/8 creature. Versus the Ghoul Caller Gissa that's over here. She is a 3/4 creature. So she's much weaker, so she costs less mana. Vilis is going to be able to, well, once we get it out, the idea is that Vilis will sort of take over the game. It's going to cost a lot of mana to get him out, but once we do, he will be very strong. So it's a bit tricky to play this deck, but it can be done. And I don't think that anybody who's new to Magic should be really scared of these kinds of abilities where we are losing life. And the primary reason for that is because drawing extra cards is really important in Magic. It's one of the pillars, so to speak, of playing the game is drawing more cards than your opponent. And that's because it provides you more opportunities. If you have more choices than your opponents do, if I draw 4 cards and my opponent draws only 1 card, then whatever that 1 card is, they're hoping that it's better than the 4 cards that I drew. So that's kind of how it turns out, is that the more cards you draw, the better off you are. Ultimately, you may get something, draw into something that your opponent may not be able to, and you can use those extra cards to, like I said, sort of take over the game over time. So that our hand is going to reflect that a bit. We started out with a little bit more lands than our opponents did. We're starting out with 5 lands, 3 of which are swamps, and then we have 2 extra lands here that aren't swamps. Then we have 2 creatures in our hand. Both of them are 5 cost, but one of them is going to, it has the ability to add additional mana to our mana pool. So that's going to help us get up to playing Vilis later on. Then finally, we also have this card, Archfiend of Ilfnir, which is a demon. So this one is just a regular wizard. Its entire intent is to help us get Vilis out, because we have so many high costing cards in the deck. Essentially, we're going to want to use this to get those cards out. Archfiend of Ilfnir is a lower cost demon, but it's one that it's going to weaken all of our opponent's creatures, and hopefully maybe even kill many of our opponent's creatures just by using its effect. So we will get there once we get enough mana to play it, but for now, we'll just leave it at that. And so, just like with the other turn, we start our turn with an untap step, or untap phase. We do not have anything to untap. We have a blank board at this point. So then we will go to our upkeep. We do not have anything during our upkeep, so we will go to the draw phase where we draw a card. Swamp, that's really great. That's good, great to see. We want more swamps because it will get us closer to making this creature that adds mana to our mana pool even stronger. And like I said, we'll get to that as we get there. So let's go ahead, and we don't have much else to do this turn, so we will go ahead and play a swamp during our main phase. So after the draw phase is the main phase 1. We don't have anything that we can play, so we will go ahead and pass the turn. Now, we just got a look at 2 different styles of deck that I have here for the beginners. For beginner games, essentially, one of them is a small tribe and one of them is a big tribe. The zombies being a smaller tribe. They take less mana out. They are going to try to create a lot of creatures and attack with them all at once. The demon deck is a little bit opposite. It's going to play very few creatures, but each of those creatures are going to be worth multiple creatures in a sense. Instead of, with the zombies, they are going to be trying to make 2/2 zombies. So there's going to be a bunch of 2/2 creatures, but our Vilis, Broker of Blood, is an 8/8 demon. So it is going to be able to take on, essentially it's kind of like it would take 4 zombies to be able to fight off Vilis, Broker of Blood. So we have one creature that's really strong versus a lot of creatures that aren't very strong. The next deck that we have here is another small tribe. It is Goblin Tribal. We are even weaker creatures. We have only 1/1 creatures for our goblins, but we are going to try to make even more of them than the zombies are. And the way that we're going to do that is Krinko 10 Street Kingpin. Let's go ahead and look him up here. Krinko Kingpin. Okay. There he is. So, go Goblins, go, yeah. So, Krinko, 10 Street Kingpin, is a legendary goblin. He only costs 3 mana to get out, so he's even cheaper than the zombies. The zombies, it costs 5. This guy is only 3. He has an ability that whenever he attacks, he gets a +1/+1 counter. So that basically means that he will get 1 power and 1 toughness stronger than whatever is printed on the card. And we will represent that with tokens like this one. See, we'll just use this 6-sided die to represent that. And whenever I do that, I also create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens that are equal to Krinko's power. So when we attack the first time, he starts off as a 1/2, but then he gets a counter, so he becomes a 2/3, and then creates 2 goblins. The next turn he attacks, he gets the 3 power and creates 3 goblins, and so on and so on and so on. So we are going, this deck is very, very quick, so we do not want very many land, as opposed to the zombie deck and the demon deck. Both of them were kind of looking for a little bit more lands. Krinko, however, only costs 3 mana, so we don't need too much to be able to get started on our goblin plan. So let's go ahead and take a look at our hand and see if we have something that reflects that. So we have a goblin, we have Quest for the Goblin Lord, we have Pyretic Ritual, and we also have World at War. After that, we have 3 lands. So this is looking really, really, really hot for us, because we have the 3 lands that we need to play Krinko, but then we're also kind of sneaky here. So we have Quest for the Goblin Lord, which I mentioned earlier. This is an enchantment. So versus a artifact or a creature, we have this enchantment. So enchantments can essentially just sit and have an effect, or they can enchant something specific. And normally when they enchant something specific, then if that something specific dies or goes away for some reason, the enchantment will die with it. So that's opposed to artifacts, which artifacts are sort of physical objects rather than magical embodiments of things. So Quest for the Goblin Lord, whenever a goblin enters the battlefield under our control, we can put a quest counter on it. And then as long as it has 5 or more counters, creatures we control get +2/+0. That's going to be really strong leading up to what we're trying to do with this, with Krinko. So that's pretty much going to be our turn 1 play, because it only costs 1 mana. Then on turn 2, we have this another sneaky card. We have Pyretic Ritual. It is a 2-cost card that creates 3 mana. So we will be able to play Krinko on our second turn. And then after that, we have a goblin that we can play. And then we also have this card, World at War, which will allow us to attack more than 1 time in a turn. So this is a really strong hand for goblins, and I'm thinking that we're going to be doing pretty well with this deck. So let's go ahead. We had our untap at the beginning of the turn. We have untap. We don't have anything to untap. Then we go to our upkeep phase. We do not have anything for our upkeep, so we will go to draw phase and draw a card. We have Hammer of Perforos. Creatures you control have haste. This is an artifact enchantment, so this can be a good card later on if we need to, but we have a really good solid lead for what we want to do in a turn, in our first few turns. So we will go to our main phase 1 and play a mountain. And then after that, we will tap that mountain to add 1 red mana to our mana pool. And that's how, like I said, that's all I talked about earlier. Whenever you tap something, you are representing that you are using up its energy until your next turn to do something. In this case, lands tap for mana. So it is exhausted its mana for the turn in order to give us... the mountain has exhausted its energy for the turn to create mana, and we will use that 1 mana to cast Quest for the Goblin Lord. So after that, we will pass the turn. We do not have anything else to do. We can't go to combat yet. So it will be Master Thopterist's turn. And this is the 4th and final deck that we have today that is playing against the other ones. So let's take a look at Sai. So Master Thopterist is a legendary creature who is a human artificer. So he deals directly with artifacts versus Ghoul-Caller Gissa is a wizard and deals with necromancy. So he only costs 2 colorless and 1 blue. So it's 3 mana total. The 2 colorless, the 2 on the 2, the 2 on the 2, the 2 representing that we can pay any color of mana to be able to pay for that cost, and then a blue for sure that we have to pay. He is a 1/4 creature, so 1 power, 4 toughness, so he can't deal a lot of damage, but he can take a decent amount of damage. And then he has, whenever you cast an artifact spell, you create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token with flying. And then we can pay 1 colorless and 1 blue, sacrifice 2 artifacts to draw a card. So just like with the demon deck, we are going to be looking to try to draw a lot of cards. And the more cards we draw, the more artifacts we play. The more artifacts we play, the more Thopters we get. And once we get a lot of Thopters, then we will be able to win the game. So let's go ahead and take a look at our hand. So our hand is isn't a great hand to start out with because, like I said, this one is another small tribe. Master Thopterist doesn't cost a lot of mana, so it is a small tribe. And then again, because the Thopters, we're going to be trying to create a lot of them. So we're starting with 4 islands, which isn't ideal because we would rather at least 2 of these be artifacts so that we can better utilize Sai's ability. But the hope here is that we will be drawing this 5 mana will be enough to play anything that we want to moving forward. So then the other 2 cards that we have is Mox Amber, which is an artifact, and it will add mana to our mana pool whenever we have a legendary creature out. So we will want to play Master Thopterist and then play Mox Amber. We also have this card, Arcane Denial, which has a kind of a weird phrasing to it. It says counter target spell and then do some stuff. Countering spells means that whenever somebody tries to do something, we can use this card to tell them, no, I would really rather you not do that. Go ahead. That card will have no effect, and it will just go straight into your graveyard without doing anything. So that's what this card will do for us. We just have to decide. We only have just the Arcane Denial. We don't have any other counter spells in our hand. So we will have to pick and choose and be very careful about what we get rid of with our Arcane Denial. So we go to untap. We begin our turn going to untap. We do not have anything to untap. So then we will go to upkeep. And we don't have anything during our upkeep. So we will draw a card for the turn. And it is Sage of Latinam. So this is a creature that allows us to sacrifice a single artifact in order to draw a card. So that could be useful moving forward. We will have to get some artifacts first. So let's go ahead and go to our main phase and play a single island. We don't really want to play any of the other cards in our hand right now, so we will pass the turn. And we have returned officially back to the zombie deck. That is we have introduced all of the different tribal decks at this point. But if you have questions about about any one of these decks, please just go ahead and ask. I do not mind at all. So let us begin the zombie turn. We go to untap phase. So we have an untap. We have our land that untaps. After that, we will draw a card for the turn, and the card we draw is this Eternal Taskmaster. So it is a zombie. That's a good one to have. So let's go ahead, and I think what I really kind of want to do is, in case I think what we're going to do is we're going to play a swamp here, and looking around, I'm trying to think about what could possibly happen here. So we have two different decks. We have the Thopters and the Demons. They've just played a land. They haven't done anything else. The Goblins, however, have started to do some stuff. So I'm curious about whether or not we want to play a creature this turn, which we could. The card we drew is a 2 cost, so we could play it. But I'm kind of thinking we want to hold off so that we can make our Door of Destiny stronger. I think that this is a good time to just hold off and try to get to the 4th turn before we play any zombies so that the Door of Destiny gets really strong. So the Goblins, I don't think, are quite yet a strong enough threat to warrant trying to play blockers as quickly as possible, is what I'm getting at. So after we played that land, we will pass the turn to the Demons, and the Demons are going to go to their untap step. We do not have anything to untap, so we go to upkeep. We do not have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card for the turn, and it is another swamp. Looking great. Looking great. I'm really happy because of our Magus of the Coffers. So let's go ahead and play another swamp, and we do not have anything else, so we will pass the turn over back to the Goblins. Now the Goblins, they have a really strong game plan, and we're going to start to enact it right now. So at the beginning of our turn, we untap. Then we go to our upkeep. We don't have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card for the turn, and it is Reckless Assault. It's another card that allows us to get an extra combat phase when we need it. But for now, we will play another mountain during our main phase, which comes right after drawing a card. We will tap both of our mountains to add 2 red mana to our mana pool, and we will use that 2 mana to cast Pyretic Ritual. And Pyretic Ritual is an instant, so it has an effect, and then it goes to our graveyard. And its effect, in this case, is adding 3 red mana to our mana pool. We will use that 3 to cast Krinko, 10th Street Kingpin. And when that happens, our Quest for the Goblin Lord is going to get a quest counter on it. Now, we only have 5 cards in hand, and we've used all of our mana for the turn, so we will pass the turn. Now, I think that everybody else is probably a little nervous now, because Goblins, they got a lot of Goblins out very quick, or they're about to get a lot of Goblins out very quickly. So we are untapping. We don't have anything to untap. We don't have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card. Foundry of the Consoles. So that would be very useful if we... It's a land that can add mana to our mana pool, in this case a colorless mana, but it can also be used to sacrifice itself and create 2 Thopters. Unfortunately, we don't have anything else that we really want to do with that. So I think what we're going to do is play an island, and now we're kind of at a crossroads. So we can play a creature that we can use to block with if we want to, or we can save our mana and be able to play Arcane Denial. I am thinking that we are not really... we do want to be able to block the Krinko mob boss, but the creature that we have here is not going to be able to take down Krinko. So it almost seems like a little bit useless to be able to do that right now, when we could be worried about whatever the Goblin deck is going to be playing next turn. And so I think that we're going to go ahead and hold off on playing anything. We will just have this Arcane Denial in hand where we can... I'm going to go ahead and reveal it, and this is for my reminder's sake, but that is so that we remember that we have an Arcane Denial later on. In case the Thopter deck is going to save that mana in case they need to play Arcane Denial. So, moving on to the next turn. So, Thopters got done with their turn after playing an island. So, zombies, untap, they don't have anything. Upkeep, nothing. Draw a card for the turn. We have Bantu's Monument. This is a 3-cost legendary artifact. With black creature spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. So, we're going to get to play things for cheaper. That's really great. And then whenever we do that... Whenever we do cast a creature spell, each opponent loses 1 life, and we will gain 1 life. So that's really useful, and I think that's what we're going to go ahead and play this turn. We will play Mutavault, which is a land that can become a 2/2 creature of any type, so we can turn Mutavault into a zombie if we need to. For now, we are just going to use it to add 3 mana to our mana pool, and cast Bantu's Monument. So next turn, we are looking at doing Door of Destinies, and then we can start playing zombies and making really strong zombies. So after we've exhausted our mana and we have cast our spells for the turn, we will pass. And I don't think that is a card that the Thopter deck would choose to counterspell, so I think that it's okay in this case. For now, we will move over to the demon deck, and the demons are going to go untap. They don't have anything. Upkeep. They do not have anything, so they will draw a card for the turn. It is Reanimate, so that's a really strong card that we can use this to bring a creature back from our graveyard, or from any graveyard, and put it onto the battlefield under our control. So for now, though, we will play another swamp, and unfortunately, we do not have anything else to do, so we will pass the turn back to the Goblin deck. Uh-oh. Goblins. So, the Goblins are going to get to go. They start their turn by untapping their 2 mountains. Going to upkeep, we do not have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card for the turn. And it is Semblance Anvil. This is a card that will make other cards cheaper by getting rid of a card in our hand. For now, we do not want to play that. Instead, we will play this card, this land called Goblin Burrows. Now, Goblin Burrows, like I said, is a land, so it can be used to tap for mana, but then it has a second ability. 1 colorless, 1 red, and tap Goblin Burrows. Target goblin gets +2/+0 until end of turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and give Krenko 10th Street Kingpin +2/+0. So now he is a 3/2 creature. And from here, we are going to go to our combat phase. So here is the life totals currently. Whenever you play Commander, you start off with 40 life. So looking here, nobody has really done anything. Well, let me amend that. So the Goblins have cast their Commander. So that is true, but nobody has lost any life yet. So we are going to go to combat, and we need to choose who we are going to attack. And looking around, nobody has done too much, but it does look like the zombies are going to be able to play a good creature next turn. So I think we're going to go ahead and attack the zombies. They seem a little bit further ahead than anybody else. So we will declare Krenko, 10th Street Kingpin, as an attacker during our combat against the zombie deck. Now, the way this works in Magic is if the zombie deck had some creatures out, they could choose to block Krenko 10th Street Kingpin if they wanted to. In this case, they don't have any creatures, so they can't block, which means that all of the damage from Krenko is going to go directly to the zombie player. Before that happens, though, we have Krinko's ability. Krinko, whenever it attacks, it gets a +1/+1 counter. That's what we're using that 6-sided die for. And then after that, we create a number of goblins equal to its power. But remember, we did something a little bit ago with this. We gave him +2/+0. So he starts out with 1 power. So we get 1 zombie from that, or goblin from that. Then Goblin Burrows gave it 2 more power. So we get 2 more goblins from that. And then Krinko has a +1/+1 counter. So 1 more goblin from there. Now, each time a goblin comes into play under our control, Quest for the Goblin Lord gets a counter. So Quest for the Goblin Lord is now at 5 counters, which means that all of our creatures that we control get an additional +2/+0. So Krinko, what was a 1 power creature last turn, is now attacking for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage. 6 total damage against the zombie deck. So the zombies, let's go ahead and count that. We have 6 damage to their life total, but there's something extra special about this combat. Krinko, 10th Street Kingpin, is sort of a special creature because it is our commander. And as our commander, it also deals commander damage. Once that number, so right now it's 6, once that number reaches 21 or greater, and it can only be done during combat if we deal combat damage. So if a creature, let's say a legendary creature that was your commander, had an ability that dealt damage directly, where you didn't have to actually attack with it in combat, that damage would not count for commander damage. In this case, only combat damage counts as commander damage. So once that number reaches 21, specifically from Krinko, then the zombie deck loses no matter what its life total is. So we're already we're quite well ahead, because 21 was really not that far away when you're dealing 6 or more damage each turn. So that's already a big leap ahead of everybody else now. So let's go ahead and leave that here. We do not have anything else. We used up all of our mana. We discussed the combat. And after that, we just have a lot of goblins and potentially a very strong Krinko. So let's move back over to the Thopter deck. So the Thopters are now scared because the goblins didn't play a spell. They just pumped Krinko up and made a bunch of goblins. So we need to try to do the same thing. So we do not have anything to untap. We don't have anything during our upkeep either. After the untap and upkeep is the draw phase, so we will draw a card for the turn. Unfortunately, it is not an artifact. It is an island, so we will go ahead and play an island. We will pay 3 mana to get our commander out. It really is important for us to do this, because then we will play this Mox Amber. Mox Amber is an artifact that costs 0 mana. It has a literal 0 printed on it, so it doesn't cost anything. And once we play that, we create a 1/1 flying Thopter because of Psy Master Thopterist. Unfortunately, we do not have anything else to do this turn. That is all that we can do, and it's unfortunate because we don't even have enough mana to counterspell something if something came up, but it's vital for us to be able to get this out at this point. We really need to start building up Thopters so that we can block the goblins at the very, very least, but most likely we are going to be wanting to try to draw more cards and hopefully outpace the goblins. Now, moving over to the zombie deck, the zombies are going to untap. We do not have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card for the turn. It is a swamp. I'm liking the look of that. So let's go ahead and play that swamp. And our plan, like I was talking about last time we were at zombies, was to pay 4 mana. So we're going to tap all of our lands and we are going to play Door of Destinies. So when Door of Destinies comes into play, we choose a creature type, so we're going to choose zombies. Whenever you play a spell of that type, put a charge counter on Door of Destinies, and then creatures we control of that type get +1/+1 for each charge counter on Door of Destinies. So now zombies are going, each time we play a zombie, it makes all zombies stronger, and that's how we are going to try to stop the goblins from winning the game very quickly. That being said, we do not have we don't have any creatures out to protect us, so we're going to have to get creatures out here shortly. So moving around to our demon deck, we passed the turn. We used up all of our mana and did everything that we wanted to. We're going to the demon deck. The demons are going to untap, then upkeep, and draw a card. We have Hell's Caretaker. So Hell's Caretaker is I'm trying to remember. I think it might be a horror. I don't remember exactly what its creature type is. This is an old card, so it doesn't say the creature type that you can find online. It is a 4-cost card that is a 1/1 creature. It has tap it, sacrifice a creature, return a creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. So we can sacrifice a small creature to get out a really big creature. That's what we're going to try to do. So let's go ahead and, just in case we want to protect our life total, we're not too worried about losing Hell's Caretaker right now because we don't have anything in our graveyard. So we are just going to play this and use it as a blocker and hope that it protects our life total. From there, we will pass the turn. So moving along, we get all the way back to the Goblin deck. Very quick turns going around. So untap and see the creature attacked, so we represent that by turning it to the side. It's sort of exhausting its power to attack for the turn, but once we got back to our turn, we can untap it. So then we don't have anything during our upkeep. We will draw a card for the turn. Goblin Rally. So this would be a really cool card to play if we had enough mana, but we do not because we haven't drawn any more mana. That being said, we're sort of okay with this because we have a really good setup right now. We don't have to play any other cards. We can just keep going with Krinko and the goblins that it creates, and let's go ahead and do that. We are going to give Krinko another +2/+0 using Goblin Burrows. We do that by paying 2 mana and tapping Goblin Burrows. Then we will go to combat. So during combat, we can pick and choose how we want to divide up our damage. In this case, we have a Thopter deck, we have a zombie deck, and we have a demons deck. The demons are kind of getting around to where they might have enough mana to do something powerful. Turn 5 would be a really good turn to play something strong. We have the Thopter deck on the other side, which is now starting to kind of play artifacts, but we don't really know. They haven't played anything very quickly yet, so we're not really super confident about what they're trying to do. And then we also have the zombies, which have played an even stronger card. They're going to start playing creatures next turn, almost certainly, because that's why they waited so long to play anything. So looking at this, I am thinking that we're going to divide up our attacks. We're going to have Krinko attack the zombies again, because that will build up our commander damage each turn we do that. And then we will have our 4 goblins attack somebody else. And looking around here, I don't think that there is a strong case necessarily for either the demons or the Thopters. Neither one of them necessarily has too much right now. But I will say that the demon deck only has 1 creature versus the Thopter deck has 2. They could potentially block with both of their creatures. The Thopters deck could, and take out 2 of our goblins. I think I want to wait a little bit on that and instead go ahead and go after the demon deck. So once we declare attacks, Krinko gets a +1/+1 counter. Then we create a number of goblins equal to its power. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we're going to create 7 goblins. And I think from now on, we're going to use single goblins to represent that. And let's go ahead and get some dice out to do that. Let's see. So 7 here. There we go. And these goblins over here are actually attacking with 3 damage each as well. So let's go ahead and bring up the life totals. We talked about the Hell's Caretaker is going to block one of the goblins. So this goblin is going to disappear. It's going to die. And Hell's Caretaker is also going to die. But then the demon deck is going to take 12 damage, or no, 9 damage because of the number of goblins that are here and how much damage they each deal. So there's 9 damage there. The zombies are going to take 7 damage. So here's 7 damage there, but they also take 7 commander damage. So let's go ahead and mark that as well. You're up 1. Okay. So 2 of them have taken a lot of damage. The Thopters are hanging in there, having not gotten attacked quite yet, but they are not very far off. We have a ton of goblins that are coming out each turn to deal damage. So somebody's going to have to figure out a way to intervene really, really quickly here. Okay, let's pass the turn. We did everything that we wanted to do in a turn. We are going over here to the Psi Master Thopterist. Let's go ahead and untap, upkeep, draw a card. Scrap Trawler. Hey, look at that. So, let's see here. Okay. So Scrap Trawler is a artifact that costs 3 mana. It is a 3/2, so 3 power, 2 toughness, and it has whenever it or another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return and to your hand target artifact card in your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So this is kind of an interesting little thing here. We're going to go ahead and play this island. Then we will tap 2 mana here to play our Scrap Trawler. So because we played an artifact, Psi Master Thopterist creates a Thopter for us. Let's find a Thopter, actually. Okay, so we have another Thopter here. So let's see about this. I think what we're going to do is we are going to do a little bit of trickery. We are going to first go to combat, and we will declare this 1/1 Thopter as an attacker against the Goblin deck. And it seems really weird that we're doing this, but there is a reason for all of this being this way. So the Thopter is going to attack the Goblin deck, but this Thopter has flying. So because it has flying, it can only be blocked by other creatures with flying. And the reverse is not the same either. It's not true that flying creatures can't block creatures without flying. Creatures with flying can block creatures without flying or creatures with flying. It's a kind of special ability for combat that way. So with our flying creature, we get to deal 1 damage to the Goblin deck, which doesn't sound like a whole lot, but hopefully over time we will be able to deal a lot more damage. Actually, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. So then our second turn, we are going to add 2 mana. So it's not on our next turn. That was a mistake. After combat, we have a second main phase. So during our second main phase, we are going to pay 2 mana. One of them was with an island. The other one is with Mox Amber. It has add 1 mana to your mana pool of any color. Add 1 mana of any color among legendary creatures and planeswalkers you control. So we are going to add 1 blue mana to our mana pool. And we are going to sacrifice both of these Thopters in order to draw a card, and that's using Master Thopter's ability, and that's giving us this Thopter Squadron. So yeah, this is going to be a really good card later on. We've been wanting to try to make advances on the Goblin deck, try to keep up with them, and the only way we're going to be able to do that is by being able to get cards like this. So we have a couple of blockers now that may be able to take out some Goblins, but for now, that's all we're going to do for the turn, and we are going to pass to the zombie deck. Now, the zombies, remember, have the Door of Destinies out, so they are going to start getting really strong zombies here shortly. So let us begin our turn by untapping, and then going to our upkeep. We do not have anything during our upkeep, so we will draw a card for the turn. Fleshbag Marauder. That's a really good card. Okay, if only... it's a really good card if only it didn't sacrifice itself, because we desperately need blockers here. So we are going to play this Cavern of Souls. Cavern of Souls, when it enters the battlefield, we have to choose a creature type. In this case, we are going to choose zombies. And then it can tap for a colorless mana, or it can also tap for 1 mana of any color as long as we use it to pay for a zombie card. And not only that, but if somebody like this blue deck over here wanted to try to counterspell the zombie card that we were playing using Cavern of Souls, they could not do that. Cavern of Souls actually protects them. Okay, so let's do... Well, first let's pay 1, then pay 2 mana, and we will play our... Let's see, actually... Let me think about this. Actually, okay, so we are going to pay... No, we need to tap it like this. We will pay 4 mana, and we will use that to play Corpse Harvester. And normally, Corpse Harvester is 5 mana, but our Bantu's Monument reduces that by 1. We have 2 different effects that happen whenever we cast a creature spell. Each opponent loses 1 life, and we will gain a life. And then Door of Destinies gets a charge counter because Corpse Harvester is a zombie. So let's go ahead and mark the life totals. Hang on a little bit. Okay. So then, after that, we are going to pay 1 mana and play Eternal Taskmaster. So, same thing that happens. We played a creature, so we get the effect from Bantu's Monument, and we also get another charge counter on Door of Destinies. Eternal Taskmaster actually comes into play tapped, so we are going to represent that by tapping him. Let's put the zombies up 1, and then the demons down 1, and this down 1, and this down 1. Actually, do we want to do... that is a tricky thing here. Because almost certainly the goblins are going to try to attack us again. We really want our Corpse Harvester, but we'd have to block with it this turn. So I think that actually we're going to do this Phyrexian Ghoul instead. I'm going to retract some of the things that we did just a little bit ago. So we have 2 mana left over. I think that... How do we want to do this? I feel bad for making the Master Thopterist lose a card right now. I think that we're just going to leave this for now and do it like this. Okay, so we will pass the turn back over to the demon deck, and hopefully Phyrexian Ghoul can threaten the Krinko just enough so that maybe they won't attack with Krinko and maybe they'll just attack with goblins. So the demons are going to go. They untapped, then go to upkeep. They don't have anything during their upkeep, so they will draw a card. It is another swamp. Okay. So let's pay 5 mana during our main phase after we played another swamp, and we will... I think that... let us go ahead and play Magus of the Coffers, because this is going to be an important card to get us a lot of mana moving forward. So we will have Magus of the Coffers out, and we will pass the turn. Now, we get back to the Goblins, and we have a ton of Goblins to do stuff with. So let's untap these, and we are going to consolidate a little bit, because now we have... I didn't say it, so creatures in Magic can't attack on the same turn that they came out. They have a thing called Summoning Sickness. So they are weak the turn that they get summoned, and they can't do anything until the next turn. That's why we had all these Goblins kind of sitting there doing nothing. And we're going to go ahead and consolidate. These three are going to go with that Goblin card right there. Okay, so now we begin our turn. We've untapped to begin our turn. Going to upkeep, we don't have anything, so we will draw a card for the turn, and it is Siege Gang Commander. So we're getting a bit thick on cards in our hand, but that's just because this Krinko setup is so strong. Okay, so looking around, we do have a little bit of a problem with the zombies, because the Phyrexian Ghoul that they have out right now is only a 4/4 creature. We will be 5 toughness. Krinko will be 5 toughness if we attack this turn. However, Phyrexian Ghoul has an ability that allows it to sacrifice a creature to make itself stronger. Strong enough, actually, to kill Krinko. So we definitely don't want Krinko to die this turn. So I think it might be more important to attack with these Goblins that we have right here to stop the zombies, or, to attack the zombies if that's who we choose to attack again. And choose to have Krinko attack somebody else, like maybe the Demon deck, maybe the Thopter deck. Let's go ahead and take a look at the life totals. And that's also because we don't have any other kind of combat ability that makes Krinko be able to deal damage through somebody else. Let's see. So I think that we are just going to go ahead and do the same thing that we've been doing. We will give Krinko a +2/+0, and then we will determine who we are attacking. So these 10 Goblins are going to be dealing 30 damage total. So looking here, I really don't like the fact that the Demon deck will have, right now, if they get around to their turn, they will have enough mana to be able to play Villas. That could be a really big problem for us, because Villas can target specific creatures and kill them. But the zombie deck definitely is about to go out of control. So I think those are our... Compared to the Thopter deck, the Thopters deck is still kind of playing around. They're not really getting out creatures. They're not really doing a whole lot. So they seem like a less of a threat right now to our game plan and keeping these creatures out and making more and more Goblins. So I think that these Goblins right here, like we said, we don't want Krinko to attack the zombies directly, because they'll almost certainly kill Krinko. But we don't mind if some of these Goblins get eaten up. So it just depends on how many Goblins we want attacking the zombie deck. So thinking about this, the zombies are at 29 life. They can block one of these Goblins. So if we have 9 Goblins out, they each deal 3 damage. That's 27 damage, so that's not quite enough to defeat them this turn. And the same goes for the Magus of the Coffers. So what I'm thinking is that we go ahead and we use all of these Goblins to attack the zombies, so then next turn we have to attack with fewer zombies to be able to defeat them. And we will use Krinko, 10th Street Kingpin, to attack the Demon deck. And the reason that we're doing that is because if they want to block all of the damage that Krinko is going to deal, they're going to have to get rid of their Magus of the Coffers, making it harder for them to get Villas, Broker of Blood, out next turn. But before that happens, we put a, let's see, we had 2 counters on it last turn, so we get a 3rd counter now. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are going to get 8 more goblins. Let's go ahead and get some more dice for that. So 6, 7, 8. There we go. And so this guy is dealing 8 damage, and the demon deck is definitely not going to block. It's unfortunate, but we're just going to have to take this 8 damage this turn and hope that next turn we can do something about all of these goblins, and hopefully maybe something even about Krinka if we're lucky. Okay, so we dealt that. Then the zombie deck is definitely going to block one of the goblins. So when you are blocking, you can only block 1 creature at a time. Unless you have an ability, unless that creature has an ability that says otherwise, or you have an enchantment or an artifact that says otherwise. So the other 9 goblins are going through and dealing damage directly to the zombie deck, which we talked about being 27. So here we go, 27 life. The zombies are at 2 life. The demons are at 21, the Thopters at 38, and the goblin deck is at 37. Okay, so I think that may be all that we're going to do for the goblins this turn. We are just going to pass to the Thopter deck. Okay. So, let's see. Sai, Master Thopterus. We're going to untap. We will draw a card for the turn. After untap is upkeep. We untapped. We didn't have anything during our upkeep, so we draw a card. Mere Retriever. That's another really good card. So let's go ahead and play an island. Let's think about this. What could we do with these cards? And I think that trying to think about how we want to do this. So I think let's go ahead and we will pay 5 mana and we will play Thopter Squadron. So whenever we play an artifact spell, we get a Thopter, 1/1 Thopter, and then with Thopter Squadron, it comes into play with 3 +1/+1 counters on it. Then we can do one of two things with it. We can either remove a counter and create a Thopter, or we can sacrifice the Thopter and make Thopter Squadron 1 power bigger. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and remove a counter and we will create another Thopter. So we have a little bit more defense now. And the thing about it is that the way this is going to go is we're going to try to get rid of all of the counters off of Thopter Squadron. And then we will use Mere Retriever. So the card that we drew this turn, whenever it dies, we return an artifact from our graveyard to our hand. So we will use this to get Thopter Squadron back. We will sacrifice Mere Retriever to draw cards, and then once that's dead, we will do our Thopter Squadron again. And by that point, we can remove a bunch of counters, make Thopters, and when this dies, Scrap Trawler will bring Mere Retriever back, which we will then play to get Thopter Squadron back. So we're going to try to cycle that back over and over again to try to get a lot of... We're going to try to cycle that over and over to be able to get a ton of Thopters out very quickly. For now, though, we will pass the turn. That is our game plan. We don't have anything else that we want to do this turn. We are just going to pass the turn over to the zombie deck. So the zombies are going to untap, upkeep, draw a card. So it is Gravecrawler. Interesting. Okay. So let's see here. The reason our Phyrexian Ghoul didn't die from the Goblin that I blocked is because it was 2 power. I don't know that I necessarily spelled that out with with words exactly. This turn, we do have a bit of a conundrum because I think our only hope in being able to get through this at all is if we get Corpse Harvester out, and we're going to play this Gravecrawler. So Corpse Harvester, we play it, we get a charge counter on Door of Destinies. Each opponent loses a life and we gain a life from Bantu's Monument. Okay. Then with Cavern of Souls, we will tap 1 and play Gravecrawler, which is another zombie. And we get another Door of Destinies, and we get another Bantu Monument trigger. So now we are at 4 life. Not a lot. Very low. But hopefully if we can survive 1 turn, then maybe we can do something about this. Maybe our fate can change just a little bit here, because we definitely are in deep doo-doo. We only have 2 cards in hand, but what basically Corpse Harvester will allow us to get a zombie that will hopefully help offset the goblins enough that we can maybe get out of this at some point. But for now, that's all we're going to be able to do. We're going to go ahead and pass the turn. The special thing about Gravecrawler is it costs 1, but it can't block. Even though it can't block, it has a special ability. You may cast Gravecrawler from your graveyard as long as you control a zombie. So we can keep replaying that from our graveyard. And each time we cast that, then we get a Bantu trigger and we get a Door of Destinies trigger. So it's going to be really good. It's going to be really fun if we can hold on to it and not die. So let's go ahead. We untapped at the beginning of our turn. Then we go to upkeep. We don't have anything during our upkeep, so we draw a card. We have Sacrifice. Sacrifice 1 of your creatures to add to your mana, to add in an amount of black mana to your mana pool equal to the creature's casting cost or converted mana cost. So that can be a really good card. For now, we will play another Swamp. We will activate Magus of the Coffer's ability, which adds a mana to our mana pool for each swamp we control. So we control 6 swamps, so we add 6 mana to our mana pool. We will use 5 of that mana to cast Archfiend of Ilfnir. So we have 1 mana floating, 1 extra mana. We will go ahead and use that mana, and we will tap 1 swamp to activate this ability of a land in our hand. And that ability is cycling for Polluted Mire. So if we pay 2, we can discard this card and draw a card. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But here's the thing. Archfiend of Ilfnir has, whenever you cycle or discard another card, put a -1/-1 counter on each creature your opponents control. So every creature that's only 1 toughness immediately dies. So that means Gravecrawler is going to immediately die. That means the Thopters that the Psymaster Thopterist had created, these guys are going to die. And then also, each of the goblins over on this side, they're 3 power, but they're only 1 toughness. They're really weak. They can die really easily. So every single goblin besides Krinko is dying this turn. Every single one. They're all gone. No more crazy goblin damage next turn. I mean, other than I say that's not necessarily perfectly true. And then not only that, but each of the other creatures that survived, they are getting a -1/-1 counter. So they are now permanently 1 weaker. They don't recover the same way as other creatures do. So let's see. We need to keep going around putting, and let's see, is this It's creatures your opponents control, so it's not all creatures. Okay. So then Krinko, so the crazy thing about Krinko, he has 3 counters on him right now, but then because he got a -1/-1 counter, now he's going down to 2+1. They cancel out, essentially. So we have that. Let's see what else we can do. And I'm thinking that... Let me think about this. We don't have quite enough, it seems, to be able to get Vilis out this turn. We're very, very close, but we're not quite close enough. So I'm thinking that we're literally 1 mana away, actually. Let me think. So, and that's because so we can use the sacrifice to get rid of the demon that we just used to do that. We could sacrifice to add 5 mana to our mana pool, but to be able to do that, we also have to pay a mana, so we'd have 5, 6, 7, and Vilis costs 8. So that's unfortunate, and we will have to just pass the turn with what we have right here and move over to the Goblin deck. Now the Goblins, the Goblins definitely took a big hit here. They do not have any other Goblins out. So let's go and untap, upkeep, draw a card, and it is a mountain. Nice. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and play that mountain. Now, let me think about this. We really want to... We really want to be able to get a lot of Goblins out, but it is kind of troublesome that... We lost so many Goblins. We were really relying on those Goblins to do what we needed to do. We can get a bunch of more Goblins out, but our problem is what happens if they have another card to discard. And it's almost like we may have to just take a chance that they're not going to have another card. To be able to do that, to be able to draw or to do the cycling ability, or to just straight discard something, because we don't really have many choices here. I think that our best bet is to try to get multiple combats this turn. So can we do that? This guy is a 1 power, this guy is 2 power, this is 0 power, so that is 4 power total, it looks like. No, 3 power total. So Krinko can survive that, but Krinko, 4 toughness, he's going to be 5. Archfiend of Ilfnir is not... Yeah, that's... Oh man, that's very problematic. It would be great if we could do something about the zombie deck, but we can't do anything about zombies right now. So I think we're going to have to try to do something about the demon deck right now. We just can't attack the demon deck on our first combat. So what we're going to do is we are going to go to combat. We are going to declare attackers against the Thopter deck, which means that we get a counter here, and we get to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 goblins. So let's go ahead and put 6 right here. Now, if only we had haste. If only we had thought to play Hammer of Perforos another turn, we could actually take out the zombie deck this turn and still do everything that we wanted to do. But unfortunately, this is where we're at right now. Okay, so we create this. We made this tougher. So the Thopter deck gets to decide whether they want to block or not. I think they're going to go ahead and block with their Thopter Squadron, because their Thopter Squadron wasn't going to be doing much anyway. Okay, so during our second main phase, here's the trick. So we can cast spells during our second main phase, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to cast Relentless Assault. Untap all creatures that attack this turn. You may declare an additional combat step after this phase. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to say, yes, we do want to attack a second time. And this time we are going to attack the demon deck putting this up to 4 counters and creating 7 more goblins, because we created 6 the last phase, so we're going to get 1 more than that this combat phase. So there is our 7. We have tons of goblins, and Krinko is also powerful enough to not get killed by Archfiend of Ilfnir. So the demon deck is going to have to decide. Let's go ahead and take a look at the demon deck. So they have 19 life. This guy is going to be dealing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 damage. So the demons have to decide if they want to take 7 damage or just block with Archfiend of Ilfnir. So let me think about this. I think that we are okay with blocking with Archfiend of Ilfnir this turn. We are going to go ahead and block and take no damage. And there is a reason for that. For now, we will just leave it up to the viewers to think about why we might not, or why we might let our Archfiend of Ilfnir die instead of go ahead and taking the damage when we technically have the life to take that damage. So for now, we will pass the turn over to the Master Thopters deck. So at the beginning of our turn, we untap. During our upkeep, we don't have anything going on, so we will draw a card for the turn, and it is Darksteel Forge. Holy crap. Okay, so that's a really good card. The Archfiend of Ilfnir would have been problematic for that. Unfortunately, we don't have quite enough mana, so this Darksteel Forge costs 9 mana to play, so that's how you know that it's a good card. And it makes all of our artifacts indestructible, which means that they don't die. If you deal enough damage to them, they just continue on as if they never took the damage. The only thing that can stop it is -1/-1 counters. So thankfully, Archfiend of Ilfnir is gone. We did play an island. So let me think what our next step is going to be. I think it's going to be we will go ahead and pay 2 mana. We will play Mirror Retriever. And then let me think what else we want to do. I think we want to let's see. Actually, maybe what we do is we pay 2 mana here. So we're going to activate Master Thopters' ability to sacrifice 2 artifacts to draw a card. So we are going to sacrifice both Mirror Retriever and this Mox Amber. So when those 2 die, we get 2 effects. Mirror Retriever gets to return an artifact, and Scrap Trawler, whenever another artifact you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand target artifact card from your graveyard with lesser converted mana cost. So with Mirror Retriever's ability, we are going to return the Thopter Squadron back to our hand. Oh, we got a Thopter from playing Mirror Retriever. I don't want to forget that. Okay, and then Scrap Trawler, whenever Mirror Retriever dies as well, Scrap Trawler is going to have Mox Amber return to our hand. And then Master Thopters' ability draws us a card. So Darksteel Citadel, that's really good. We will cast Mox Amber. When we do that, we get another Thopter. And let's see. I think that is pretty much all that we can do in a turn, unfortunately. We don't have too much else that we can do, so we will... I think we will go ahead and pass the turn, and we're not going to do anything else with the cards in our hand. We're just going to... Unfortunately, we can't make any attacks. We're just going to have to deal with what we got and keep building up, and hopefully we can build up to a point that we can make an impact on the board. Because we're very close. We're on the edge of being able to do some really cool things. It's just that we keep getting knocked down, and we're not building up quite as quickly as the goblins. So, on the zombies' turn, we untap. Then we During our upkeep, we don't have anything else that we want to do, so we will draw a card for the turn. Carrion Feeder. Interesting. Interesting card. Okay. So, we will, during our turn, we will tap, actually, let's go ahead and use Cavern of Souls. We're going to tap that, and actually we should really keep Arcane Denial revealed so that we can do something with it. Okay, Arcane Denial. So we are going to pay 1 to cast Gravecrawler from our graveyard, and we can do that because we control a zombie, and that's Gravecrawler's ability. When that happens, Door of Destinies gets another counter, and we Bantu's Monument. So let's go ahead and add 1 there, and everybody else loses 1 life. Okay. So then, let's think about this. Let's go ahead and pay 2 mana here, and we are going to use Corpse Harvester's ability. We're going to tap Corpse Harvester and sacrifice this Gravecrawler in order to search our library for a zombie card and a swamp, and we have to reveal it. So let's go ahead and reveal that swamp, and the creature that we are going to get is a creature that I get very often to help with situations like this when we need something to handle these situations. We are getting Noxious Ghoul. So whenever it is a zombie, it costs a little bit more than we have to pay right now. But once we get it out, and hopefully we can get it out, Noxious Ghoul has whenever it or another zombie comes into play under our control, all non-zombie creatures get -1/-1 until end of turn. So it means that we get to go completely bananas and hopefully destroy everything that isn't a zombie. I don't know, we have to survive that long, so it's going to be interesting to get that far. Let's finish shuffling, and we are going to do this. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Let's go ahead and stick that just kind of in a random spot lower on. Put that there. We have these in our hand. We have not played a land this turn, so we will go ahead and play a swamp. Unfortunately, it's not really enough to do much, so let's try to get our life total up a little bit more. So we are going to pay a black. We are going to play Gravecrawler from our graveyard. Yeah, so we do that. Door of Destinies gets a counter. Bantu Memorial or Monument gains us a life and makes everybody else lose a life. Let's go ahead and mark that. Then we will sacrifice Gravecrawler using Phyrexian Ghoul's ability to give it +2/+2. We will do that 2 more times and have Gravecrawler out. Let's see. So the Door of Destinies gets 2 more counters, and Bantu's Memorial gains us 2 more life. Yeah. How's that? Let's go and take a look at that life total. So the zombies have managed to get back up to 8 life, and demons are at 15, goblins are at 31, and Thopters are at 32. Okay, so that's all we can do, and we have really, really strong zombies now. But let's pass and go to the demon deck. So the demons are going to untap, upkeep, draw a card, and it is Embodiment of Agonies. Interesting. Okay. Well, let us go ahead and we will put a swamp into play. We will tap 2 mana, and we will activate Magus of the Coffer's ability to add 7 mana to our mana pool. And then we will pay 1 extra 1 in order to cast Vilis, Broker of Blood. Okay, so now here is a point at which we could decide to use Arcane Denial. Do we need to do something about that using the Thopters counterspell? Okay, so looking at the board from the Thopters viewpoint, the Noxious Ghoul is very, very dangerous, and we would rather them not be able to get the Noxious Ghoul out. We would really, really like to be able to save our counterspell for the Noxious Ghoul, and the reason I would want to do that is because Noxious Ghoul will permanently take out all of our Thopters. It's just one zombie, they're all gone. That's not really, that is very, very bad for us. It bypasses our ability to make everything indestructible, meaning that we won't be able to keep things on the board just because they're indestructible. They'll end up going away. The Goblins also have a really strong board, and we would like to see all of the Goblins go away. In fact, if the Goblins are able to kill off both the demons and the zombies, the Thopter deck probably is not long for this world. There's just not much we're going to be able to do. So we would like to be able to counterspell anything that they have, but most likely they're not going to be playing too many spells because they don't have much mana. They've just been attacking with Krenko, and that's been good enough. So then we're getting back to Vilis, Broker of Blood. Vilis could use their ability to draw a lot of cards in a turn to get around the let me think. Vilis, Broker of Blood could allow them to draw a lot of cards and help dig us out of this scenario where Noxious Ghoul permanently gets rid of every creature on the board, and the Goblins constantly have tons of Goblins to kill everybody off in a single swing. So I'm kind of leaning towards the downside, of course, is that if we let Vilis survive, the demon deck could end up drawing the cards that it needs to just win the game without having to deal with interact with anybody. We don't know. We don't know what's in their deck. So we don't know what's going to come out, I should say. Which is very problematic, but we kind of have to, I think, take into account that we just don't have anything that we can do about Noxious Ghoul without the counterspell in our hand. So I think that we're going to have to let Vilis, Broker of Blood go. Okay, so the next step. We bypass that counterspell opportunity. Here's another one. The demon deck is going to cast Reanimation. Put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. You lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So really, the only real choice here is Archfiend of Ilfnir, which essentially is going to end up being the same problem as before. It's going to be able to put basically put -1/-1 counters on things and take everything out. But that being said, it has flying, and we do still need something to take out the Goblins. And I'm afraid of what's going to happen if we don't. Because essentially the Goblins now are at the point where, looking at the life totals, the zombies only have 2 zombies that can block this turn. So they have plenty of Goblins to be able to kill off the zombies and then still have leftovers to be able to kill the demon deck. I'm afraid that if we don't allow this to go right now and try to figure out something that we can do about it later, we're going to be in really, really deep trouble. And here's how it works. Archfiend of Reanimate brings Archfiend of Ilfnir from the graveyard to the battlefield. Then we lose life equal to its converted mana cost. So the demons are going to lose 5 life. But we already have Vilis out. So because we lost 5 life, we draw 5 cards. Oh gosh. Okay. And that means we have extra cards in our hand that we can discard for Archfiend of Ilfnir's ability. let me think about this. We are going to also, I think what we want to do is we are going to, we do want to get rid of something. We don't have, the cards that we drew, we don't have enough mana to do much else with them. We could use Sacrifice, but I don't know that we want to do Sacrifice yet this turn. We could have done Sacrifice and brought Villas back from the graveyard with Reanimate, but I think it's okay that we did Archfiend so that we can try to sweep the battlefield for now. Let me think about this. So, we... We are going to... Oh, wait, we only have 10 life. Okay, so we do have to be a little careful here. But we are going to... Well, let me think about this. How many cards are we going to get rid of? So, at the end of the turn, if you have more than 7 cards, you have to discard down to 7. So, at the moment, we're only discarding 1 card, which will only give -1/-1 to things. So we do need we're looking over and the zombie deck can attack with a lot of stuff. And I don't know that we're going to be able to do anything about that. Is really problematic. We need 12 mana for Soul Conduit. Let me think about this. We get 8 there, 10. So we're too short on doing that. Oh, there's not a great option here. 6 life. So we're killing off those guys. But we still would need something that can... As the demon deck, what is our best bet? The zombies could try to kill us if we lost enough life. Although, that being said, they could attack with all their creatures and kill us anyway. But that being said, they don't have very much life. They are concerned with the goblins. We could go light on them this turn. Maybe that's what we do. Maybe we don't do anything else. And we will play nice this turn so that hopefully nobody goes after us. So we are going to... I know that sounds crazy, but I don't think we have much choice here. We are going to, in the turn, discard 1 card, and that is going to have every other creature we don't control get -1/-1. So that means Gravecrawler gets -1, this one gets -1, this one gets -1. This one, these are zombies that we're talking. Actually, let's just turn the table a little bit. Let's go backwards. So this technically would go in turn order, in a sense. I mean, they all get it at the same time, but we're going to end on Goblins. So Gravecrawler got -1/-1, but it has +8/+8 here. So then Phyrexian Ghoul, Eternal Taskmaster, Master, and Corpse Harvester all got -1/-1. None of them die. We go all the way around to the artifacts. Both our Thopters are going to die. And so is Scrap Trawler. So instead, we are going to go ahead and pay 2 mana and sacrifice... Oh, do we want to do that? No, we're just going to let the Thopters die and Scrap Trawler die. And when it dies... then we get to return an artifact with converted mana cost less to our hand, so we're going to return the Mirror Retriever back to our hand. And then Psymaster Thopters gets another -1. So it is currently a -1 power and 2 toughness. Now we're going over to the Goblins. The Goblins, like I said, all of these Goblins are going to die. They're only 1 toughness, so they're not very strong at all. And then Krinko is going to go down to 3. Okay, so here we go. The Krinko 10th Street Kingpin's turn. Let's untap, upkeep, don't have anything, draw a card. It is a mountain. I think that's ideal, but I'm not sure necessarily if it's perfect, because I think that we still are kind of in trouble because we need to do something about what's out there. The Goblin deck has so many creatures out. We are not doing any. We are unsuccessful. We've been unsuccessful in containing the zombies and getting them all the way down to 0. The demons are also kind of problematic because they're really close to dying, but they do have the mana that they need to take out Krinko if we attack. That's no good. I think what that means is we need to do something that doesn't rely necessarily on... Man, if only we had a lot of mana, then it would be good. Then we would be golden. I think what we're going to have to do is attempt to cast Siege Gain Commander. Siege Gain Commander, when it comes into play, it'll create 3 goblins, and then it has pay 2 mana, sacrifice a goblin. Siege Gain Commander deals 2 damage to target creature or player. This is hopefully how we will get around the whole problem with losing all of our goblins all the time. Now, the Thopter deck could choose to counter this spell, but I think they understand as well that that the demons are just as much of a problem with Vilas out as other players are, and especially the zombie deck. We're still afraid of the Noxious Ghoul really taking over the game, especially with the Phyrexian Ghoul and the Gravecrawler out. They can play a bunch of zombies in a single turn. So I think they're going to we are not going to counterspell that card. So let's think about this. We do need more goblins to attack, but the demon deck is now going to be able to bypass us. So I think we're going to unfortunately attack the Thopter deck, and that means that we get another counter here, and we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7 more goblins. So let's go ahead and 3 here and 4 more this way. So hopefully we can last a little bit. Hopefully nobody is going to be able to get 2 -1/-1 counters on things or something like that. But we don't really have too much of a choice. Now the Thopters, I don't think they're going to block. So I think they're going to take 7 damage here. And they're going to be a bit lower as well. This is pretty crazy. Oh wait, the demons did cast their commander. Let's go ahead and make sure to mark that. Okay, here we go. So that's where we're at, moving into the Thopter's turn. This is a really good game. This has a lot of back and forth. Okay, so we are going to untap all of our mana. We will draw a card for the turn. It is an island. That's good. We're slowly getting there. So let's play our Darksteel Forge. We are still a little shy on the mana. We are 1 mana shy of being able to play our Darksteel Forge. We do want to hold up some mana to be able to counterspell the Noxious Ghoul. So let me think about this. Let's pay 2 mana and we will cast Mere Retriever. When we do that, we get a free Thopter. Then I think we will... Let's see, do we want to do any of that? I don't know that we necessarily do. We're just going to hold off. We're not going to do anything else this turn. We're just going to hold what we have in our hand and pass over to the zombies. And let's go ahead and make sure that we have this revealed. Okay, the zombies are going to go. They're going to untap. Oh, and that's why it's... we've been forgetting, and this kind of something that happens. We forgot about the Cave of Souls. So, untap, upkeep, draw a card. We have a swamp. Let's go ahead and play that swamp. And so here's the thing. When you're playing against blue decks, you should be very aware of what people have untapped. And in this case, we see a blue deck with a large number of cards, and they didn't play anything. It's very, very possible that they have a counterspell. We do really want the Noxious Ghoul to be able to get through, so we are going to use the Cavern of Souls in order to cast it. And that means that it is uncounterable. And let's see, the Noxious Ghoul comes into play, and let me think about this. We get a counter here. We get to gain a life and have everybody else lose a life. Okay, and then let's think about what else we want to do. I think in this case, Noxious Ghoul costs 5 mana. We only paid 4 because Bantu's Monument reduces that cost by 1. Okay, so let's think about this. -1/-1 to each creature because Noxious Ghoul came into play. So that means that we would be losing the Mirror Retriever and the Thopter. So the artifact deck is going to go ahead and sacrifice both of those to draw a card because we weren't able to counter it. And when Mirror Retriever is put into the graveyard, we're going to return the Scrap Trawler to our hand. And the card we drew was Ichor Wellspring. That's a decent card. If only it stopped Noxious Ghoul. Okay, so let's think. That also kills off all of these goblins because they were only 1 toughness. And let's think about what else we can do here. So we are going to... let's see, do we want to attack? Let me look at the life totals here. Okay. So, Siege Gain Commander is a big problem. And we could kill it this turn. We're definitely, almost certainly going to kill it this turn. So the question is, what do we need to do to ensure our survival? And I think that our survival hinges on not being attacked by the demon deck, because if we can at least keep 1 creature untapped to be able to block Krinko, then we should be okay. And I think we can manage to do that even if we attack with all of the creatures we could attack this turn. So the question is, we need at least two creatures to get through the... we need at least 1 creature to get through, I think. Okay, so this is 9 damage total. So if we attacked with these 3 creatures, or maybe just these 3 creatures, that would be enough to defeat the demon deck. And we'd still have 2 creatures left over to be able to block with. We won't be able to do anything about the Thopters, unfortunately. Okay, so let me think about this. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and attack with these 3 creatures, because even if they have all of their power reduced because of the demon deck, then they still are dealing 9 damage, and that's how much life the demon deck has. And unfortunately, the demons do not have... maybe they should have played the Embodiment of Agonies last turn. So unfortunately, they don't have... No, wait, they couldn't without activating that. So let me think about this. Actually, No, we do need to attack with 4 creatures because they do have mana out that they won't die from activating Villas enough times. So we do need to attack with 4 creatures, all 4 of these. That's what it is. That's why I was thinking we needed to attack with all 4 earlier. Okay, yeah, 4 creatures. That for sure gets it because they can't do enough -1/-1s to stop that. So that means that we have 1 creature open to block for Krinko, and on our second main phase, we will do stuff about the siege gain commander. Okay, so that's good. That's what we wanted. Let me think about this. So, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and mark that for the demons. The demons are going to... Well, I guess the demons can still try to draw cards. So the demons are going to pay 1 black, lose 2 life. Let's go and do this, just in case. Lose 2 life. This is in response, like before we declare blockers, we're going to pay 2 life. And because we paid 2 life, we draw 2 cards. The cards that we drew were a Swamp and Demon of Dark Schemes. Let's go and do that one more time. This is just in case. And this is actually, yeah, let's see. Let's say we would maybe block the... actually, let's say we are blocking these 2. And so it's these 2 that are sticking... No, wait, because Gravecrawler's dealing extra damage. So we want Gravecrawler to be blocked. And these 2 are the ones that are unblocked. So we are going to make sure that... Let me think about this. We are going to have... Phyrexian Ghoul is the one that gets... yeah, Phyrexian Ghoul is going to get -1/-1 from the first time. It's going to get a second -1/-1. We will lose 2 more life. And draw 2 cards. And Trading Post and Swamp, that's not going to do it. So I think that means that we are actually dead. The Demon deck, unfortunately, has lost the game because there are no 0 effect cards in this deck that would save us. So, and even looking at the top 2, we don't have anything. Okay, so the demons are dead. The demons are dead. These are going to deal... They would deal 9 damage each. There are only... One of them is down to 7, so they are going... The demon deck is going to lose... 16 damage. Okie dokie. No more demons. Okay. Long live the goblins. Yeah, well, we'll see. They're not looking too hot with Noxious Ghoul out. Okay. So we go to our second main. We have some mana, so let's go ahead and we are going to tap 1 and try to play... Actually, let's go and tap 2, and we will play Fleshbag Marauder. And I think that this is what we're going to counterspell, because that means that we would lose the Psi Master Thopters if Fleshbag Marauder came out. So we are going to Arcane Denial, and that means that, let's see, that spell's caster may draw up to 2 cards at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep, and we draw an extra card at the next upkeep. Okay, so there's that. So Fleshbag Marauder is countered, let's see, whenever we cast a creature spell, whenever we play it. So we still get these effects. So we add another counter to Door of Destinies, and we also do the gain a life, lose a life thing. Okay. So let's see. We did that, but we do still need a zombie to come into play. So let's go ahead and pay 1, and we will play Carrion Feeder. And that isn't counterspelled. So when Carrion Feeder comes in, well, whenever we cast it, we get more of the Door of Destinies and the life exchange. And then everything that's not a zombie gets -1/-1 until end of turn. That is going to finally finish off Slime Master Thopters, and it's also going to finish off the Siege Gain Commander. Okay, I think that's all we're going to do for a turn. So it is the Goblins' turn, and before we do that, let's go and do a little bit of cleanup here and pick up the Demon deck so it's out of the way and we're not thinking about it later. Let's see. There we go. Okay. That is good. Now over to the Goblin deck. So, let's see. Let's untap, upkeep. We draw a card. It is Sulfuric Vortex. Okay, well, that would be important. I mean, it would be very important, except that... Okay, so the zombies have 2 creatures. Only one of them can block. Carrion Feeder cannot block. So we're only worried about Noxious Ghoul. Oh, man. Oh, can we even do this? Let's see. So Noxious Ghoul is 14 toughness. Holy cow. 14. Oh my gosh. That is really, really bad. And we are not in a good spot here. I am not 100% sure I know what we're going to do. Because we almost have all the tools that we need. If we could manage to... Oh, man, I think we... Let me think about this. Goblins 28. Man, that zombie deck is going to slam us next turn. It would be really, really nice if we had just a little bit more mana. If we had the card that sacrifices goblins to be able to get mana, we would be perfect. But we don't have that. We have to do something else. Because if we had if we had enough mana to play the World at War, we could get multiple combats, and Hammer of Porphyros would also allow us to get creatures with haste, and those tokens could have blocked. So we did really... There was a turn way back there when we should have played Hammer of Porphyros, and we didn't, and we have put ourselves in trouble ever since then. Unfortunately... Oh, man, that is... I'm thinking that we are about to see the zombies win, because we are not in a good spot to be able to do anything about all of this nonsense that we're seeing in front of us. Because Sulfuric Vortex could stop the life gain, but they have so much power. I guess if we had a card that destroyed artifacts, which we do in this deck, we just haven't drawn any of them. If we had one of those right now, then we could do a lot of damage to the zombie deck, to the capabilities of the zombie deck. But, man, 14, because we're not dealing half of that. We're dealing 7 damage, so we're not even close to being able to kill the Noxious Ghoul. Maybe we just have to... Yeah, because we attack, then... Oh no, that's not good. We need to be able to get multiple combats. I don't think that we have anything because they can essentially now Gravecrawler their way through any number of goblin tokens. Let's pay 3 for Hammer of Perforos, and we will pay 2 for Warren Instigator, and kind of cross our fingers and hope that the mono blue deck has something to deal with the goblins, because we certainly do not. We do not have anything else. We are basically at the end of our cheap tricks to make this work. If we were able to do something about, if we could get one turn where we can have multiple attacks, we could probably win. But unfortunately, we are very much lacking on actually making on that turn we are not able to do anything to stop the zombie apocalypse. Okay, untap, upkeep, draw a card. Rapid hybridization. Hoo boy. That's actually something that we really like to see. Because that will get rid of Noxious Ghoul, and hopefully they don't have something to bring it back. So let's go ahead and rapid hybridization. Kill the Noxious Ghoul. Unfortunately, Krenko did not attack last turn, so there wasn't anything that they could do about that. Let's see. They get a 3/3, basically frog. So let's see if we can find a 3/3 frog. And I'm afraid that we're not going to. That we don't have one just right on hand right now, but that will be okay if we don't. Let's see. We could do a 3/3 beast. We may just go ahead and do that. It's not technically correct. They get a frog lizard, but I'm not especially seeing a frog lizard in the cards that are right on hand. So I don't want to waste too much time trying to dig for it. Yeah, I don't see anything else. Okay. So we are going to go ahead and do this 3/3 beast. The rapid hybridization, destroy target. It's an instant, 1 blue, destroy target creature. It can't be regenerated. Then they put a 3/3 green frog lizard into play under their control. Okay, so we did that. Then, let me think about this. We do not have a ton of ability to survive. Let's see. I think maybe we play this, and it comes into play with 3 counters on it. We will remove 2 of those counters to create 2 Thopters, and hopefully that lets us survive a turn. Because we do not have something that does anything about the artifact. We could try to draw more cards, but I'm not sure that that's going to help us in a single turn, because we just don't have a ton of mana to be able to draw a lot of cards, essentially. Okay, so pass the turn, over to the zombies. Let's see. Yeah, we don't have a lot of those tokens, unfortunately. Okay. Untap. 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 Upkeep. Draw a card. Rogue's Passage. That is a very nice card. And it pretty much means, I think that's maybe essentially game over, because we are going to pay 2 mana, and I don't see any mana available for counter spells. We are going to play a card that we've been holding on to pretty much the entire game. It is Animate Dead. It brings a creature back from our graveyard and enchants that creature with itself. So Noxious Ghoul comes into play and gives all non-zombie creatures -1/-1 until end of turn. So that's going to kill off the Thopters that just came out. They are dead. That also kills Warren Instigator, which is over here. It is dead. Let's see. Let's look at the life totals real quick. So we need to... Oh, wait. And we also got another power here, and we gained a life and made everybody else lose a life. Okay, so looking at the life totals, we need to deal 30 damage to the goblins and just over 20 damage to the Thopters. Let's think about this. So we probably want to be able to attack with all of our creatures. These 5 specifically, because they're each going to be dealing pretty much 12 damage each. That means that all of these have to connect to be able to do that. Let's see about this. We want to be sure that the goblin deck... I think we want to be sure that the goblin deck dies this turn. Just because they seem like they're probably the most problematic with the different things that they could possibly do. So... Actually, I think what we'll do with our mana, because we could make a creature unblockable. That's what Rogue's Passage does. But there's not really any need to do that this turn. We just need to be sure that we can block. So... Yeah, I think that's how we're going to do this. Okay, so we are going to attack with all of our these 3 creatures are going to attack the goblin deck. These 2 creatures are going to attack the Thopter deck. So this one's over here. We have attacking the Thopters. We have the this guy's dealing 12 damage. This guy's dealing 13 damage. So that is 25. And that is enough to defeat them. Then looking over at the goblin deck, we have this guy is dealing 13, this guy's dealing 13, this guy's dealing 12. So if they don't want to die, they have to block. So they are probably going to block this turn. Do they have? I don't think they have a choice. I think they have to block. So they have to block with Krinko, who is going to die and lose all of his counters. And they're still going to take 25 damage. So 25 damage. The goblins are down to 2 life. Then during our second main, after we dealt damage, we are going to pay 4 mana and cast... Actually, why do we don't even need to do that. Wow. Okay, what we're going to do instead, we are going to sacrifice the Gravecrawler to Carrion Feeder to give it a +1/+1 counter. Then we are going to pay a mana to recast it from our graveyard, which means we get Bantu's Monument, has people gain a life, then lose a life, and we will do that one more time so that the goblins lose 2 life and unfortunately lose the game. That is the end of it. They are toast as well. This is how we looked like. Actually, I guess, technically speaking, the zombies are +2 here. Okay. There we go. That is the game, unfortunately. In one fell swoop, the zombies finally came back from behind and devoured their way into victory. Munching on goblins all the way to victory. Yeah, so that was a really good game. I think that pretty much everybody got to do something. The zombies are still a little bit rough, it feels like. I'm wondering if maybe they need to be curbed just slightly. Corpse Harvester is really, really strong, and I'm wondering if maybe... Well, I'm too afraid that if we cut the Corpse Harvester out, or maybe the Noxious Ghoul out, it may be too crippling to the zombies, and they won't be able to compete quite as well, especially in situations like we had with the Goblins, where they were running very much amok, and they were definitely going to win the game without the Noxious Ghoul being able to take them out. Now, that being said, without the Cavern of Souls, then the artifact deck would have been able to counterspell the Noxious Ghoul, although the Animate Dead was in our hand. So, I mean, there is some play there where one spell difference could have meant a lot of difference, ultimately. It's kind of hard to tell, so it's still stuff to think about with these decks. I hope you all enjoyed watching. I think I'm going to go ahead and clean up. If you have any questions while I do that, please be sure to ask. We are still looking to doing a Wednesday or Thursday stream where we'll play. I think we're going to go ahead and bring Plains Chase back. Bring it back again. We played it a number of times. I'll try to think about what decks we want to have for that. Last week we played some of the stronger decks that I currently own, which was really fun to play. It's not usual that I play sort of semi-higher leveled decks, not really competitive decks, but just semi-higher. And we probably won't do that this next week with Plains Chase, but at some point maybe we might. Let me think about it. We've done a number of different dragon decks. Let me think. We still have dragon decks that I haven't shown. Maybe we could do kind of weaker. Maybe we do weaker tribal decks. How about that? We have a 4-color Saproling deck. We have a colorless Sliver deck. We have a skeleton deck, which I would like to repair and make stronger at some point. Yeah, I'm not sure. That's very interesting questions here. I'm not 100% convinced I know what I want to do yet. But there's definitely some thoughts there about. I've been thinking about doing that kind of weaker tribal deck because I do love my tribal decks, as you can tell from this game that we just played. I don't know. The skeleton deck is just really not well put together, and it needs a lot of work. So that's part of the problem. We could also do an art stream at some point. I think I want to do another one. We started by painting some cards for a witch themed deck, and I still have a bunch of those cards to do, and it will take multiple streams to do it. So I don't know. Okay, well, if there isn't any questions, I will go ahead and close up the stream. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you join me again in Magic, and have a great end to your weekend. Bye.